Once a month, I'm going to be offering a Cowrie shell divination reading for our community here on the channel. I'm Lorelei Black, and we're here to talk about Aphrodite, goddess studies, and priestess work. So the method that I use for my Cowrie divinations is documented in this very little book called Wisdom of Love, Cowrie Divination System. She gave me two main points of guidance when she first instructed me to do this work. One was look to geomancy, she said, for the structure. And the second was to use the little coochie shells, was how I heard it in my head. Later in the process, she pretty much did that deity download thing where she just straight gave me the verses that would be associated with the patterns and the spreads, which we'll be going over every time we do a reading. Those help with the actual interpretation of the reading. Let's just get started. So before I actually read, I like to offer smoke to the goddess. Water to the shells. In this case, it's rose water. Oil to my higher self. I whisper to the shells to wake them up. A little shake near my heart. And then I toss them into the reading container. Today, that's a tambourine. So there are 16 shells, which are read together in 4 groups of 4. Those groupings are each called spreads. Today, the spreads that I am seeing are gain, the heart, free will, and path. Okay, so I usually read these from left to right, top to bottom. So we've got 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom in this particular case. So let's start with gain and talk about what the meaning behind the spread is, what it is that it's referencing. So all of the spreads are in groups of 2 that usually represent some kind of duality or some kind of opposites to each other. Gain's opposite is loss, and these 2 spreads represent the fluctuation of the scales of balance. And when you're looking at them, you can remember the difference between gain and loss because we read from right to left, or I'm sorry, from left to right. I get those confused. We read from left to right. We read from left to right within the dish. So having 3 on the left and 1 on the right would represent an increase or a gain. And then having 3 on the right, which is further away, would represent a loss because that's where the movement is going to, is from left to right. So the next one is heart, which is generally 3 shells going straight across in a line with 1 shell below them. The opposite of the heart is the mind. It's not really the opposite. They work in conjunction with each other under the best of circumstances, but that's how we see these spreads, is heart or mind. Being led with your heart, being led with your mind. So the fact that we've got a spread about gain and a spread about the heart lets us know that we're talking about something good coming, a benefit coming to us in regards to matters of the heart. Free will is our next one. And the free will its pairing or its mate is fate. The fate and free will spreads represent the dice cup, either opened and upright or dropped into the side, in which case the dice would be spilling out, right? So that's where we've got free will coming into play. So since we're looking at free will, what it means is that your choices hold more sway right now in regards to the situation. Some things are fated, but some things are really sort of governed by our choices. This question, this reading, is about the choices we make. So we have choices we make, heart-related issues, and gain. And then our last one is the path. The path's other pairing is the horizon. So we sort of have, what lies out in the future and then our steps to get there. This is one where they very much work together. So with what I wrote, right, the path speaks of the journey ahead of you, your life's course, or the long road. It tends to speak to a long view of events, things further in the future, or dealing with the scope of time. Okay, so let's look first. Our very first one is gain. Let's look at the patterns that we see, because our reading doesn't stop with just there being the spreads. The spreads tell us sort of like what the domain of the question is, what the scope of the question is. It's the patterns that give us more pinpointed insight into what we're actually seeing. And the patterns are determined by seeing the eyes or the mouths on the shells. I like to use the actual like golden ring cowrie shells because they have a golden eye on them already. I feel like the golden ring, the purple ring are both really good for doing these readings, because we can see the eye on one side and then when we turn it over we see like the open mouth or closed mouth, but the mouth. What I'm seeing on the gain, the heavy scales that are weighed in our favor, is mouth, eye, eye, eye. And that one represents birth. So let me share with you the verse that she gave to me regarding birth in these readings. In blood and soil and toil and pain, you're born into this world again. From cauldron womb to mother's breast, your journey starts. You cannot rest. What this verse always reminds me of is that birth is a time of bright promise and new beginnings. It's very exciting. There's lots of joy there, but there's also very often, like almost always, a lot of pain and fear for both the mother and the child in a birthing situation. It is not easy work. It is hard on us. So thinking about this in terms of the gain, where this reading seems to be about a new beginning, perhaps for our community, since that's generally who I'm doing the reading for, right? Is that this is a new adventure for us as a group. But there are going to be some growing pains along the way. It's not necessarily an easy thing to get started at something. I know for sure for me, it's going to be a challenge in some ways doing this new adventure with you. And sort of finding my voice and my footing, doing this work, but in the YouTube setting or the video setting. Luckily, when I think about Aphrodite and her role as a mother, with Eros, with Harmonia, with Aeneas, she is a doting and devoted mother. That is not something that gets conveyed a lot in modern contemporary explorations of Aphrodite, but she gives all for her children. She throws herself into harm's way. She does everything she can to protect them. She bends the heavens and the sea in order for them to have the best experiences possible. So while there may be difficulty and growing pains and birth pains and blood and soil and toil, there is also bright promise and much blessing and protection. Lick, 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 lick. Little bunny licking. Okay, so our next spread that we were looking at is the heart. And for this one, we have eyes on both ends and then mouths in the middle. This represents the harbor, or is represented by the idea of harbor. One of Aphrodite's epithets is Liminea, which means she of the harbor. This is a safe enclosure, a safe space, which is wonderful when we're thinking about issues of the heart, that we're engaging as a group, I guess, as a community in this new work, and that there is protection and safety and safe space created for us. The verse is, safe within an earthen shield, unruly seas to harbors yield. Anchored firmly in this calm, your bark escapes the threat of harm. Bark being an old word for ship. So sometimes when we see this, when we see harbor in the reading, it's an indication that it might be time to find safe space. It might be time to go into your safe space because perhaps your guardians are seeing some danger ahead for you. I'm not sure that that's how I would interpret it this time based on some of the other factors in the reading. Everything in the reading thus far has been very positive, and already saying that this is a new beginning, but much like a new beginning of a sea voyage, you're going to start in that place of the harbor. You're going to start from this safe space. So we're here together in safe space. Next, we have the free will spread that we want to look at. And I am interpreting these again as the two middles. If we're reading from left to right, then the two middles are the mouths and the two ends are the eyes, which is the exact opposite kind of layout that we just saw from Harbor. So this one, this one references heart love. Love of mother, love of son, love deeply and love everyone. Love friends and children and your mate. Love till there is no room for hate. So when we actually look at Aphrodite's relationships, she gives us a lot of really great lessons about how to be in all kinds of relationships. She shows a doting mother. She is a doting mother. She is a faithful friend. She is a passionate paramour. Her relationship with her husband is complicated, but it is loving. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, on the channel, because there's a lot that seems to indicate that she doesn't have a loving relationship with her husband, but I don't see that as being the case at all. It is my deeply held belief that they had an alchemical marriage. They were the star maiden and the metalsmith, the ocean and the volcano. So one of the things that I note in the book is that love in this spread, or in this pattern, is a verb and not a noun. It is not a thing that we obtain. It is a thing that we do. So we've got the idea of free will as the pattern and love, heart love. I would call this, if using a Greek word, I would call this agape. It is that type of love that is this big, charitable, man, English just really struggles on words for love. We just have love, and it does not do the concept justice, but it is this deep, very heart-centered love. So we have choices to make right now about how we love. And finally, we had the path, and I am interpreting these shells. So I'm going to start from the bottom of the path because it is slightly at an angle, like slightly at an angle. So I'm going to go, if going left to right, it means going up the incline, along the path, starting from what's closest to us and moving out. So we've got eye, mouth, eye, which represents youth, an ancient and undying truth. Each age conceals an inner youth. Remaining young is not an art. Hold your youth within your heart. While Aphrodite is a goddess of postponing old age, she has an epithet called Ambalogera, which is the postponer of old age. And she helps keep us young. Sometimes physically, like I have noticed a trend of Aphrodite people looking young, even when, you know, I'm 47. I don't find, though, that in the reading that it usually is talking about actual physical youth. It's talking about being young in mind, young in heart, young in spirit. And sometimes it goes hand in hand with those ideas of beginning and newness that have come up here. We are embarking on something new together, community. And there's a freshness to that, a humor to it if we don't take ourselves too seriously, which we never should. A cheerfulness, a carefreeness. So I think it is really fun that this first reading is really about us as a community setting off on an adventure together. I am so excited that you're here for this, and I'm so excited to finally be doing this work here with you. So that, my friends, is our very first community Cowrie shell reading together. I'd love for you to talk about it with me and with each other in the comments below. And if you found inspiration, grace, beauty, or clarity in today's video, then please bless me with a little algorithmic love by clicking on the like button and letting your friends know that there's some goddess goodness happening over here. I will see you next week for more of that goddess goodness. Goodbye, beloveds.